Welcome to the 62nd weekly episode of Marked Out Radio. I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And you got to spend your weekend with wrestling legend Marty Jannetty. How did that happen?
Well, Wrestling Universe's own Jack was throwing a little bit of a convention at the Elks Lodge in Flushing. And good old Eric Sims with his multiple fanny packs was on the scene, and he had Marty Jannetty. And now Marty is someone that on a personal level I've never really done a deal with, like to get my PC stuff done. So I felt like the time was right.
Why would you say that? Why is the time right for Marty?
I mean, listen, he's living life fast and hard, and which he's been doing since he was probably born.
I was gonna say.
I mean,
so it's either now or never for Marty, you think?
Yeah, I mean, he seems like he's struggling a bit. He's in a lot of pain with the ankle. He talked to me a little bit about that whole situation. He really wasn't moving around well. But at the same time, he gave, I think, some of the better and cleaner and neater autographs that I've ever seen him give. And just like in one little scary thing, I hand him a Posca. And with a guy like Marty, I'm sure you would agree, you try to limit the paint you give him, because if you push a little too hard or anything like that happens, you end up with a sea of paint. But I had two Hasbros, so like there needed to be some paint usage. So I gave him a Posca. He hit the Hasbro beautifully, and then somehow like my hand was like covered in paint. So I don't know what happened. It must have like exploded after the fact when I like was capping it. So thank God that didn't get on the actual Hasbro.
I don't know. I guess all worked out in the end. So then at this event, and then I couldn't bring myself to go to this event because I'm at the stage now where these wrestling guys, I've met all of them, usually more than once. I'm not really looking to build my autograph collection, so I set this one out. How was the overall experience there?
The experience, it was good. It was a good time. I saw a lot of familiar faces. We saw, all the Wrestling Universe guys were there. Fuji was there. Ken was there. Saw Bull James, who I haven't seen in a couple months. All things considered, it was nice. And while I was there, a listener by the name of Juan came up to me and said that he recognized my voice, and then I guess to confirm it was in fact me, he saw me with the meta glasses. So between my voice and I guess the fact that I am, have these recording glasses on to capture these moments with senior citizen pro wrestlers, I guess I've sort of carved out a little reputation for myself.
Yeah, it's my understanding that my presence was missed.
Yeah, he asked where you were, and my exact quote was, "Sean would rather die than be at this event," which I felt sort of captured your sentiments.
Yeah, it's very depressing at this stage, right? And my hobby sort of enthusiasm, it ebbs and flows over the years. I mean, anyone who knows me in the hobby knows my epic meltdown at the Ian McDermott table at New York Comic Con years ago, where I was just like, I'm never doing this again. This brings me no joy whatsoever. I got to tell that whole story at some point, but yeah. And so right now I'm in a little bit of a down period as far as my enthusiasm for the hobby, and so attending these, what I know will be a relatively poorly attended wrestling con, just sort of seeing that it would be a little bit depressing for me. So I bowed out, and that's just a reality of my where my head is currently at for these kinds of shows.
Yeah, but now this would have been the highlight of the show for you. I know you, much like me, you love hearing from the listeners, and it was cool. He made a merchandise request for something we'll be talking about a little later. So we're gonna try to get a lot of different things going. Also got to see, good old Sean C-Rat was there. He had some nice words about the podcast, and we just discussed the hobby in general. It was cool. I honestly spent more time socializing than I did, working in any sense of the word. But it was a good time.
Once again, reinforcing my decision not to attend. So that's pretty much it as far as our hobby stuff this week. I mean, in the upcoming weeks, really it's going to be just an insane volume of stuff for the hobby. So this is just one of those, it's a slow week for us. It was not, however, a slow week for Mr. Class 316, Steve, who really, he blew up the board this week. He blew up the Facebook group in a way that, we have certain main characters at Marked Out, and Steve has always been a main character. And, honestly, he's kind of taken a back, he's kind of filling a legacy role. He's taken a back seat in recent years, not really kind of drawing a ton of attention or not making any waves. And then he goes ahead and drops the report that he dropped this week.
Yeah, I mean, you could kind of consider Class, he's like, at one point he was like our Roddy Piper. And now he's sort of like the flabby Roddy Piper from like 2000 and whatever, when he would come out and he won the tag straps with Ric Flair. But I've been telling this lunatic for months. I'm like, you can't post a report on the board and then share the link. No one's doing this. Hell, I don't even click the link usually. So I'm like, you gotta post. I said, you're such a lunatic. You gotta post this for the world to see. And it's off to the races. And sure enough, it is off to the races.
So what Steve got was pretty incredible, especially for something that happened in the wild, so to speak. Steve was able to get a full combo, which for those who are new, a full combo is a selfie or a photo with the person and an autograph from that person with Bill Gates. So as someone who's knowledgeable in street graphing, what is the significance of this?
He's extremely difficult. I mean, you're talking one of the most wealthiest and most protected people, I think, in the country. I don't think that's really a stretch on either front. He's also not someone like, Mark Cuban's pretty wealthy, but he's kind of a man of the people. And I met Mark Cuban I don't even know if he had security. He kind of just walks around. Bill Gates is not that. Bill Gates is very, Steve, I think, kind of caught him at a perfect moment in the perfect place where there weren't a lot of people waiting. And obviously, this whole experience was met with some mixed feelings.
My favorite part of Steve's report, and this is probably no one else's favorite part, but my favorite part is that he kept track of when he originally printed the 8x10 to attempt Bill Gates to sign it, and when he actually got it signed. And he said it's basically the largest delta, the largest distance between when he printed something and when that thing got signed in his entire hobby duration, which was 15 years. So he's been walking around with that 8x10 in his trunk, or driving around, I should say, with his trunk for 15 years, the same 8x10, hoping to get it signed. And it's hard to capture the eccentricity and the uniqueness of people like Steve without hard data like that. And then when you see a number like that, he's been carrying around this, or he's been holding on to this 8x10 for 15 years to try and get Gates to do it, and then also getting a photo op. It's an absolutely extraordinary piece of information. But I digress. I
just want to make a little comment there. Let's keep in mind that this is the same guy that barely remembers what happened 15 minutes ago. So I'm a little skeptical about 15 years being accurate. Mentally he's fried at this point in many ways. He admits this himself. So if he is actually correct and he's sure it's 15 years, I agree with you. But I mean, again, this guy doesn't remember things that happened 5 years ago, 5 months ago. So I'm skeptical.
So regardless of that piece of it, even the attempt at tracking that information is in and of itself fascinating, right?
Agreed.
So he posts the report, and as some reports tend to do on the Marked Out Collecting Community Facebook group, it has gone a little bit viral. And so, in its first couple of days, it started catching a little bit of attention. It got a couple thousand views. As of I think yesterday, I texted you sometime yesterday afternoon, it had hit 8,000 views. And as of this morning, it was over 14,000, which means just between yesterday and today, it's nearly doubled in its reach. And when that happens, you just know it's going to start catching fast. And so when that happens, people who are just total strangers to the hobby, to our group, to what we do at all, they are confronted by the algorithm basically forces this kind of content in front of them. And so we get all kinds of outsiders and weirdos and interlopers in the group making comments on these posts. And so what are some of the trends you noticed from the outsiders who are posting responses here?
Well, inside and outside, there's a lot of people calling Steve a creep, which, I mean, I think I've been calling him a creep for a decade and a half. He certainly is, by his own admission, which I think is probably one of his more admirable traits, that he's very open and understanding about his creepiness. We also had some true outsiders and probably bigger creeps and lunatics than Steve that are threatening and just making just comments about this harm to Bill Gates.
Yeah, it's very disturbing, and I think that I have my own beliefs about how the internet has just worsened our relationships with each other. As someone who had his entire childhood take place without the influence of the internet, and then suddenly the internet really blowing up when I was a teenager, and I remember I was old enough before that I remember it. And then I also saw kind of the genesis of how people began communicating on the internet. And now I see how what the internet has done to the quality of our communication and the way we interact with and the way we treat each other and the way the things that people are willing to say in public. There were people posting. The one guy in particular posted that, or he commented on Steve's post that rather than taking a photo with Bill Gates, Steve should have taken the opportunity to murder him. I mean, just really deranged stuff. And these people, you never know whether someone's serious or whether someone's trying to be funny. And I think, unfortunately, with that kind of stuff, that line is often blurry, where someone is a little bit deranged, and so they say things that are their attempt at sort of being funny, but also their attempt at testing the waters for validation of insane behavior. And so that's a caveat. And that's a problem with growing on any level, especially on social media, is people who are lunatics. And Steve is a lunatic, but he's mostly a lovable one in the sense that, what he's doing is not really harming people directly. Sure, he says crazy things to people, and he's off-putting to people and all things like that. I don't think he would even disagree with that. But there's a certain kind of I don't even know the word for it, just sickness, where people are like really. I mean, there were a couple of conspiracy theory posts that I left up only because I don't want to be accused of censorship. And if you're going to believe bizarre conspiracies about Bill Gates, sure, believe whatever you want, I guess. But I don't know. People used to be self-conscious about being seen as insane, and now people just sort of fly their freak flag for the world,
Yeah, I have a couple takeaways from this. I thought Class would catch more strays than Bill Gates, and it's honestly, I think it's been around 50-50, maybe a bit of an edge to Bill Gates. It's
I also deleted posts, so right now it looks like Class took more strays. I was deleting some posts that were just crazy.
I mean, and when people wonder, why, if you were sitting in your car listening to the start of this segment, and you're wondering to yourself, why is Bill Gates hard to meet? This is why. And do I think Bill Gates' security team is on Marked Out's autograph collecting community reading these comments? I'm sure they're not. But they are definitely, what we're seeing in these comments is sort of, I think, a microcosm of what you're seeing anywhere at any time of just the general chatter about Bill Gates. So if you are this person and you have this level of strangers out there talking about harming you and all this stuff, I mean, how did he know if Steve was a guy that wanted a selfie or was going to throw something in his face or stab him or anything? It's scary. That's what happens, I think. And that's why people like Rhea Ripley and other ones out there, when some of us are like, oh, it's the price of fame, this and that. And yes, to a degree it is. but it's also scary. Like, John Lennon was walking through Central Park, and all of a sudden that was his last walk because of fame and the crazy people that attracts. And I think seeing this, as crazy as it all is, it should just make you a little bit more aware of like why people and celebrities in particular are not always the most approachable.
It's funny because we poked fun at Spade last week, right?
Yeah.
About this whole thing, and Spade, talking about how he was thinking about getting his gun and whatnot, and we made fun of it. And we also even said, Spade, you should obviously be able to tell that these are autograph hunters, and I do think there is this very unsettling feeling when a stranger is following you. And you're famous, and it's for those of us who are not famous. I don't think we can really speak to this because I think there's a reason why so many famous people go crazy. I think sort of the good example of this is like Lindsay Lohan. Like by all accounts, Lindsay Lohan was a normal little girl, and she happens to be her family is from the town where I work. And so it's pretty well known and well documented that as a kid, up until her early teens, she was pretty normal. And the funny thing was, some of her siblings also were people who I ran into and knew in that context, and even like they were normal. And then as she got older, she went kind of nuts, and pretty publicly went nuts. And she seems to be doing all right now. But anyway, it's like, it's not a coincidence that so many of these people, Chappell Roan, we joked about a few months ago, had a complete meltdown once she became famous, right? It was by all accounts pretty normal. And then all of a sudden had a meltdown. Like, I don't think it's, and the feeling is the public response is always the same. Oh, those crazy famous people, without sort of making the logical connection, which is that there's something about, that state of being famous that creates such an enormous stressor that it's really, really difficult for a lot of people. It's not impossible, but it's really, really difficult for people to overcome it. And I don't think, now we're going to get really crazy here, but I don't think from an evolutionary perspective, people really are very well adapted at being known by large quantities of other people. Like when you think about like, for basically all of human history, it was more or less almost impossible to be very well known unless you were like sort of an absolute monarch, or you were someone who was a leader of a very large tribe. And the history is littered, and as a history person, you can attest to this, history is littered with stories of completely insane kings and emperors and stuff who did completely insane things. And it's sort of clear that they were also many of them driven insane by the level of power and influence and fame that they had. So someone like I understand why people who are in the throes of fame want to protect themselves in some way because they feel besieged all the time. And even like someone like a John Cena, who's an extraordinarily well-adjusted, famous person, has talked about, instances where he felt really like cornered or uncomfortable or threatened by people because of, and now we have a whole thing with parasocial relationships. Now, granted, parasocial relationships today with the internet are a little bit different from parasocial relationships of the past. Famously, there were people who, look, John Lennon was, you mentioned John Lennon, he was murdered because someone believed that the Catcher in the Rye told him to do it. Someone who had developed this weird sense that he had a larger understanding of the world than other people. But the whole thing with Bill Gates is weird because even people who I think like should know better, these are people who I've had contact with, people who should know better, they posted weird things about this, and it's like I don't really know how to cope with that because I don't know. I feel no illusions about I guess Bill Gates is a little bit different than most famous people in the sense that he's so wealthy and is trying to use his wealth through his foundation and through other kinds of mechanisms to profoundly influence society. So in that case, there are people who are pushing back against that, and like I understand.
I mean,
he's like educational initiatives and things like that. So
yeah, he's more polarizing than the average celebrity, but it's still, the level of crazy is just it's completely just sobering, and it really does make you realize, like you said, that fame comes with a whole lot of really cool things. You can sit courtside at games. You can get comped all sorts of stuff. You can make money to stand in a photo booth or sit at a table signing your name. These are all things that, people in unemployment offices and people working, people scraping roadkill up the side of the roads would kill for. People in any line of work, honestly, because every job has it's just mundane crap that you feel like you're not making enough money for what you put up with. But at the same time, these people, I think a lot of celebrities feel and think that, like, when I put down the phone and I'm not recording on TikTok, or when I'm not on the movie set, or when I'm not, coding, I can just go out and be like a human, and you can't. And it only gets worse. It's only going to get bigger and bigger from here, because there's no privacy anywhere. We all have, we all let the world into far too many moments of our lives. And the difference is, for most of us, like last night I posted a story from the movie theater, but no one cares about me. I'm nobody. So no one's waiting outside the movies to accost me or ask me for my autograph. That's the difference. But we all are guilty. Well, I shouldn't say we all, but a lot of us are guilty of sort of providing too much of a glimpse into our lives. Then, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of friends. 40 years ago, we would not have had any contact with 97% of those. So it's interesting. It just sort of makes you aware of why celebrity is so isolating and why it's so difficult to get near some of these people.
So yeah, I'm curious on what people have to say about this post. I know there are some people who just want to make fun of Steve, and I get it, because it's sort of irresistible and funny. And of course, I can you imagine what his reaction was after he got the photo with Bill Gates, if you were there contemporaneously?
Oh yeah, screaming, crying, yelling.
Yeah. If you've never been around Steve, when he gets a big win, he emotes with no sort of
no shame,
no governor on his emotion hose. He just, everything comes out. And so watching him succeed is both hilarious and horrifying. It's hilarious because you really rarely see people sort of react with this unbridled emotion in public. But it's also horrifying because you very rarely see people reacting with unbridled emotion in public, and he just lets it all go. So I can only even imagine what that was like. I'm sure Bill Gates's security detail must have been thrilled with that reaction, in addition to the whole thing. But I think you see Stevie, you talk to him for 15 seconds, he's harmless. And I've always said that from the beginning. But I can understand in the context of someone like Bill Gates, who really, Bill Gates is a little bit different in the sense that he never set out to become a celebrity. I mean, he was just a computer geek who founded a company, who now, runs charitable foundations and tries to influence politics. And so he is not a conventional celebrity in that sense, but I understand why he has to try and separate himself from other people. And there were a couple other reports. Zach, he didn't do any in-person reports, but he did some mail-in stuff.
Yeah, and I thought the biggest takeaway for me was, and I didn't even know this was going on with him, he mailed his Taxi print from the 70s sitcom Taxi. And I think all he needed was Carol Kane, who he mailed it off for, obviously Andy Kaufman, and then Danny DeVito. So everyone else, I'm not going to list everyone else, but if you know the show, you know how many signatures that is. He slapped that sucker in the mail and shipped it off to Lilu Multi Props, and the tracking never showed delivered. So I mean, we've all been there. For me, it's always with purchases, never with, because I'm far too much of a chicken to send anything out that I actually care about. But that's always a lousy feeling when something is bouncing around and you don't have any real definitive proof it's where it's supposed to be. But it turned out that Lilu, they received the item. It was there. It just somehow, I guess, wasn't scanned on delivery. So it arrived fine. Carol Kane signed it beautifully. It was returned. And now I guess Zach will hold it until, Andy Kaufman returns from the great beyond, or more, I think probably a little bit more realistic will be when Danny DeVito does some sort of ascendant. I know he does those occasionally for the Penguin stuff from Batman. I think probably is what really drives the interest in those deals. But I know he does them occasionally, so I'm sure Zach will get this completed sooner than later.
Yeah, it looks great. Carol Kane's great. It was great that they had a signing with her. It's very cool. Mailing stuff away is always harrowing. And honestly, in recent months, I've always been the kind of person who's been like, I trust the post office. I've had so few, given how complex the post office is, I've had so few post office screw-ups in my life. And I definitely am in like the top, in terms of individuals anyway, probably in the top 2 or 3% of post office users as individuals. I am sending stuff and receiving stuff every single day. And I can count on one hand the number of times that things went wrong. But I'll tell you, in recent months, I've gotten more delays. I've gotten more delays in the past 3 months than I've had in like the past several years combined. So yeah. I know you've noticed the same thing.
I have. And just to wrap this up, because this report just made me think of one of my own little funny stories from the past. Carol Kane is actually a really cool, she has a really cool name. It's a shame she doesn't do cons. I had a random encounter with Carol Kane, which this story sounds completely unhinged, but years ago, David Schwimmer from Friends did an off-Broadway show. Now, if anyone knows anything about Friends, the majority of the cast is not very nice. David Schwimmer is on that list. He's not very nice. So he was doing this small little theater, and I remember that I did the extremely sane and rational thing, which was I sort of snuck into the lobby like after the play was out. And I was just sort of like mingling and trying to blend in the lobby because I knew you could Schwimmer would stop in the lobby, but once he hit the street and saw the graphers, he would just book it. So I'm in the lobby, and it turned out by the time this whole thing ended, it was me, David Schwimmer, Carol Kane, Rhea Perlman, and I believe that was it. And there were like some family of them with like in tow, and they were all just chatting. So I had to like sort of blend in with the crowd and then ask them all for selfies, which was extremely natural and not awkward at all, I assure you. But it was a success.
So you got all of them?
I got all of them. So it wasn't a bad Sunday afternoon on Off-Broadway.
It's hard to argue with success. And then we also had, I lost my spot on the sheet. Oh, and then Vinny did the AEW hotel. He got a bunch of people. He got the great selfie with Moxley. He got Jarrett to finish that print with Elias. So pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, AEW is in Philly for like, I'm so out of touch with AEW. I don't even know for how long, but I know they're taking up that residency at the bingo hall. And I mean, I guess since their attendance has been dropping, it's never a bad idea to go to a building with a small cap. But yeah, very cool by Vinny as usual. He always has some cool items or projects that he's working on. I love seeing them come together.
So you actually, and this is news kind of following up on last week, you got a little bit of follow-up info on the Hogan's Beach Shop story.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little vague about it because the guy, I mean, I know the person that sent it to me is a listener. He didn't tell me don't share this. So I'm going to assume he's cool if I share it. So I'm just going to try to protect his source a little bit, but he was also among the burned. He had a pending order from Hulk's demise that was canceled. And basically what was said, they canceled his order, and their excuse was after the fact, this was like a few days ago, that everything sold out too quickly for them to be able to pull it down. That was that was the excuse from a beach shop source. I don't want to go into like who they were exactly, but that was the excuse, which I'm not quite sure really holds up because I mean,
well, especially because if you have an inventory management system for your store, it's not like it gets pulled automatically from the inventory management system. So I don't know what kind of operation they're running, but And
No, I think
a basic inventory management system would have fixed this.
Well, I mean, I think their point was that the second he died, they want to pull all of it, and they didn't have a chance. But I mean, first of all, they were on the inside track a lot more than the buyers. Like Ron had to know that the Hulkster was not doing great. I mean, you could have, if you were really this level of capitalist that you wanted to extract every dollar, I personally would have said, well, okay, let's pull all the Hulk stuff like that week when you know he's still like bedridden, just in case, or raise the prices just in case. So I don't have too much sympathy that you sort of knew he wasn't doing great and you still didn't do anything. And then, it was too quick. Like, how quick was it truly? They also confirmed some of the information that we ran with last week. That well-known East Coast vendor was apparently approached and sold a large or maybe all of their Hogan stock back to the beat shop. So that is apparently a thing. They are buying from outside sources. Granted, I want to be clear that I think their belief and assumption is that these are all pieces that were signed, that they sold to the buyer. It's sort of like me with Rockin' with Dan when I bought those prints back. They feel as though they're buying their own stuff back. But, I mean, is that where you stop? Who knows? I don't want to jump down the potential rabbit hole. At this point, that is all we kind of know. And they also said that they're getting low on a lot of things. And one number I will throw out there was it was apparently down to 40 8x10. Not like 40 of each 8x10, but allegedly 40 total 8x10s because he has not been in a while. It's been less and less current. Obviously, the last couple of years he's been busy. Then he was sick. He was shilling beer all over the country. So that he really hadn't been in a while. And apparently there's thousands, like 3,500 is the number I heard, of pending shirt orders they have to fill. There's no way they even have 3,500 shirts. I guess at this point they're waiting for them to come in. It's a whole mess, but that's what we have on the beat.
Yeah, they were. I mean, their shirts. They appear to be just vendors of Fanatics stuff, so they're just wholesaling through Fanatics for shirts
to some degree, but they have a lot. They have a lot of the like Trump and Hogan hybrid shirts. That's them exclusively. They have a lot of. I actually at some point got to reach out to that beat shop because I bought my Beat Shop Orlando shirt and something happened to it. I need another one, and they only sell Clearwater ones on the website. And I'm a lunatic. I want to say Orlando. I have to call them at some point when all these orders are processed and try to get an Orlando one shipped to me.
Am I nuts now for really wanting to know what happened to the shirt? Because you were very weird about it just now.
It shrunk in the wash, or I ate a little too much. I'm not sure which one.
The way you made it sound like there was some kind of incident.
No. That was. I don't think anyone cares about my clothes wearing, but at that point I was buying mediums. I don't know why I wanted to wear them super tight, and now I don't want them super tight. Like I don't even know how I used to wear it. Nothing happened.
Nothing really happened.
It just wasn't. I should have made a cooler story, right?
Definitely. I thought like you were attacked by a dog or something happened because it was like something happened to it. Really, nothing happened to it.
No.
Oh, that's so funny. In other news, we were pretty wrong about our prediction for David Duchovny on his recent stop on his book tour at Bookends.
Listen, for a guy who spent all this time chasing the unexplainable, I mean, this is pretty unexplainable. I'm shocked. He did photo ops and at least extra. I saw someone with a Funko that he hit. I'm assuming he did a lot of them. I'm not positive. I was not there. I don't need him, so I didn't need to be there. But that's pretty cool that, I mean, they didn't advertise that. I'm sure the sales would have been a hell of a lot better if they would have announced photo ops. I was completely wrong. Someone was badgering them on their Facebook page about are there photos. I remember I made the smug comment back. I'm like, them not advertising photos is the announcement. Like, and I was sure I was right, and I certainly was not. So if anyone listened to my comment and didn't go, I apologize. This goes to show you never know. As the old class adage goes.
Yeah, and the truth of it is, with a lot of these people, there have been so many instances where you really think it's going to go one direction and it goes the completely other direction.
Yeah.
There have instances where people who are historically very nice, and then you go to their event and it's like locked down like Fort Knox. And there are other things with people who are just normally difficult, who are very easy in certain circumstances. So as much as you want to try and use logic and use history to predict, one of the great sort of mysteries of the hobby is you never really know. And as Class, to quote Class, you never know. You never know, because that's sort of what draws a lot of the most, I would say, active members of the hobby. What draws them to everything is that you truly cannot know what's going to happen. And then for some of them, it's funny because it's like this incredibly stressful thing that you just can't quite accurately predict how things are going to go down.
No. But the thing for me is, like, which keeps me out of some of this stuff, like the urge, you see something like this, and then your urge, if you're a lunatic, would be that I must do every book signing of interest, regardless of what the rules say or don't say, because who knows what could happen. But you could end up doing 20 in a row. That's what it goes the way I predicted. And then the 21st is going to be like this. But, luckily to me, like, if I needed to do Coveney and I didn't go, I would feel regret. But if I went to something like this and wasted hours of my life and not getting what I wanted, I think I would just feel even more despondent than even the success. Seeing success and not being there would make me feel on a negative level. That would be worse. So I still sit out most of the unknown stuff because you can't be everywhere, and you start wasting time on a weekly basis chasing miracles. I mean, what are you doing?
But I remember, like, there were certain ones that we went to, like, I remember the Cameron Diaz book signing, and that was where, like, they promised photo ops. They promised them. And yet they were still naysayers saying she was so mean in their encounters with her. There was no way she would actually go through with it. And
by the way, Cameron's making a little bit of a comeback, I see, in Hollywood. She's got some projects coming out.
I mean, she had retired, I thought.
Yeah, I know. She's back. But I do remember that we did the one in Brooklyn. I remember being on that sidewalk. I guess I was one of the lunatics. I believed the hype of, she's so bad. And I remember I was a little bit nervous until we went in and saw she was doing them. And honestly,
she was delightful.
She was nice. Very nice.
I mean, it's one of the great crazy sort of elements of the hobby that you can't explain to outsiders because they won't understand it. That there is a degree of uncertainty, and that uncertainty is part of the adrenaline rush in a weird way of this whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of how the hobby has become a little bit more mainstream, and this is hobby adjacent. It's not directly related to the hobby, but there is an internet influencer. I'm certain most of you will have never heard of her because her target demographic is young girls. And by young, I'm thinking under 12. Her name is Salish Matter. And what's interesting is she's in the news today because she had an advertised appearance. They were doing some kind of pop-up store. She was launching a makeup brand at the American Dreams Mall in New Jersey. And by numbers that I've seen, they had no idea. They were anticipating somewhere in the ballpark of 20,000 people to show up, and about 80,000 people showed up. And they had promised, this is the best part, they had promised that the first 100 people, the first 100 of 80,000 would get a meet and greet with her. And so when this entire mob, descended upon the mall several hours before the mall opened, the state police took over the whole operation and just made her family leave. So she met no one. There were no meet and greets. And 80,000 lunatics, which was basically young girls and their mothers, descended on a mall, causing havoc. What's actually really funny about this is a very, very similar thing happened many years ago on Long Island at Roosevelt Field Mall. Did you ever hear this story? Because I actually can speak to it.
I don't think I did.
So to give you, I'm dating myself a little bit, but to give you an idea, there was an appearance advertised at Roosevelt Field Mall by an up-and-coming pop star by the name of Justin Bieber. He was not, fully known yet. He was not certainly a top, A-list, whatever you call a celebrity. He was up and coming. And so they advertised an appearance by him at Roosevelt Field, and they anticipated a small crowd. And I only know this because there was a young girl in my class who told me she was taking off from school and her mother was taking her to go to this thing. And what ended up happening was this mob of women and their daughters descended upon the mall, causing absolute chaos. They ended up having to close the mall. They arrested a bunch of these women. They shut down the whole appearance, and actually it never happened. The meet and greet never took place because of the chaos of that appearance. And that we're talking, that has to be close to 20 years ago now. So yeah, it just shows you that there is mainstream draw to the concept of the meet and greet across all sectors of society.
And it also kind of shows that the people that aren't really deep in the hobby are honestly crazier than the people like Class. You could have had a couple thousand classes at a mall for a meet and greet, and they would have known enough to sort of not get the whole thing shut down. These people have no real like combo etiquette, and they just run wild and just lose everything. But I mean, on the level of this girl who I never heard of, talk about a win. She didn't have to meet anybody. She's getting like huge coverage now with people like us talking about her that that never would have originally. This is better than anything they could have done as far as like promoting that line.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, it's all over the internet. The information that I got about this, I got from People Magazine. I mean, this is a person who she has a couple million followers on Instagram. This is going to catapult her to the next level for sure.
Listen, man, it's really crazy what people will do for that combo.
It's funny because did you notice that one of the posts in response to Steve's report was, "What is a combo?" Which it just cracked me up, honestly. Not
to go back to that, but I also popped for Ken saying how he loves a good combo, and he spelled it with the C-U-M, which is old school marked out right there.
That's really that's digging deep in the marked out lore, and you really have to know what these terms. There was so many of those inside marked out terms that sort of made the whole experience quite special.
Yeah, people don't realize that the K of K&S was once marked out top troll. He would stir the pot hourly. He lived for that. He loved it.
I get it. It was a fun place to be. It really was. It's time for Wicked Ink Wednesday. You pulled all these, so that's yours to talk about.
All right, Wicked Ink Wednesday. We had Alex's Owen Hart signed Hasbro, which is always insane to see. The Hasbros from the long forgotten, not long forgotten, but the long since passed away stars, and that was a sick piece. Really, really nice. Still, I mean, you look at that Owen, it's always tragic that that's the Owen we got, just the way the errors worked in the timeline. Like, we got the high energy Owen Hart, but what can you do? It's sick. It looks great. That is awesome. We had Byron's Heat print signed by Al, Bob, and Val, as if I'm tight with all three of them. But Heat is just one of those movies that I feel like if you see it channel surfing, it's like you're powerless to turn it off. It is a classic. That diner scene with Pacino and De Niro is, I think, on some sort of a Mount Rushmore of just film scenes. That is amazing. That's sick. That's the type of thing I wish I had it, but it's several $1,000s, and I don't. I'll probably buy it in 2 years' time when one of them dies, and I'll pay double. And last but not least, Crossfire with the sick click print, which is
explain
absolutely
what that
awesome.
is, because most people are not going to know what that is.
Well, the click is Shawn Michaels, Triple H, X-Pac, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. I don't believe Triple H was on this print, but it was like the sort of the workable click members that you'd see around. If Triple H was on a click print, you'd have to really squint your eyes and hope it's real. This is absolutely real, and it's awesome. And not to go on a wrestling wormhole here, but I always feel a little shorted that we never got like pro wrestling run with the click as like an actual faction on camera. Like just imagining those 5 guys in the ring on a weekly basis, like just doing promos would have been sick. but it never happened.
So let's talk about the upcoming cons. You got New York Comic Con added a bunch of wrestlers. That's all. I mean, I saw some artists. Look, if you want to keep track of the weekly comic book artists that are being added to New York Comic Con, you're gonna have to go elsewhere. It's impossible for us to keep track because there are so many people who are added and who drop off every week that it's just we can't do it. So, but we did see some wrestlers added. I guess Paul Walter Hauser is sort of a wrestler. I don't know, but
I still don't even know who he is. I really don't. You explained it a little bit. He's like an actor and a wrestler, and my response was that he's someone that's mediocre at many things, which I mean is not really as insulting as it sounds. Because I mean, the majority of the population are bad at almost everything. So I mean, to be mediocre at several things is actually kind of good.
They also added Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, Matt Hardy, Danhausen, and Brody King. So largely a pretty solid AEW focused lineup from and some former AEW from coming to New York Comic Con.
Sad reality is, you know, by years past, if you need any of these people, prices will be pretty steep. But I'll tell you what won't be pretty steep, and that's the lines. These wrestling signings never seem to do well over there. So maybe they know something I don't. Maybe it picks up at a certain point. I don't know. But whenever I walk by, it looks pretty dead. So if you need any of these guys, you won't have to wait long.
I don't know. I would say Darby might draw. Matt Hardy will draw a little bit. The rest of them, probably not. But yeah, largely. Interesting piece of news. Method Man was added to Spooky Empire, but he was not rebooked yet anyway for Monster Mania Oaks. So there was definitely something to that. I mean, it also could be he's just not available that weekend, but Method Man is apparently still trying to, break into doing cons. You had some thoughts about that, I know.
Yeah, I don't personally need much more out of Method Man. Although, I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't get something down the line, but I already have the photo up. But I think Method Man, if he would really hit the scene, I think that could be big sort of for raising awareness. I know the types of musicians you want to see out and about might not really be impacted by Method Man. But I mean, if this could bring Ghostface and other like Wu-Tang people out because Method Man tells them how successful he's been, that would be awesome. So personally, I hope Method Man has a long, successful con run and he gets all his 90s rap brethren to follow suit.
I mean, the key is you just got to show up, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
that's really what it boils down to.
Which, seeing how he canceled this, I mean, imagine if we would have stayed an extra day in Pittsburgh like we did, and I would have gone in and waited in line, and he would have just bailed. Like, I didn't even think of that. I was like, oh, he'll definitely show up. But I guess all's well that ends well for us.
You are excited about the Monster Mania Oaks. Well, let's talk about the first one. So the very first ad for Oaks, they were pitching this X-Files ad. We went nuts. We were way off. We predicted Duchovny. It was actually Mitch Pileggi, who's actually a good ad. Like, objectively, he's done a lot of stuff, but certainly not on the level of a Duchovny.
No, listen, I was, for whatever reason, viewing it as a headline announcement, and that's why I thought Duchovny. And it wasn't a headline announcement. At least I hope they're not calling that a headline announcement. Mitch Pileggi honestly would fit on any shows like mid-tier of the card. He's done a million things. He's awesome, honestly, in almost everything he does. That's a good ad. It's not what I was expecting, but on the positive note, I did not need David Duchovny, so now the upper tier has another spot that maybe it'll be someone I do need.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, so you're in now for Monster Mania because they added the Nun Bonnie Aarons.
The Nun gets me there. 100%. I am there. I have, I may have to thin my stack a little bit. At the last time I had the stack built up and ready to go, and then I ended up, I think I bailed because it was Connecticut and that CT horror show. I was hearing, I was going to go on a Saturday, and then I was hearing reports that that's a weird show in the sense from what I've been hearing. I think the area is so starved for like conventions and stuff. Kane Hodder will have like a 3-hour line. And like the amount of people I planned on getting that I was basically, using like Cherry Hill metrics of like what kind of line are they going to have. I wasn't going to have the time on a Saturday to get through these massive lines. I said, forget it. But I have a stack of stuff for the Nun. I am a huge Conjuring Universe fan. And yeah, I'm very excited about this. And then in addition to the Nun, they also added Sean and Aaron Ashmore, who X-Men following. They did a lot of cool things between the two of them. I don't know if I'll get them. I think it'll depend on what else I need to get. If they add a ton of things, I'm spending a ton of money, maybe I won't, but I might. And I assume your stance of buying pies from old ladies is trumping all of this.
There's no way I can justify going to a con the weekend before Thanksgiving. That's just...
Listen, I think I'd go to a con on Thanksgiving if it had the Nun.
No, yeah, that's just not something that I would be able to pull off. If I'm being candid, that's just not realistic. So I will there's no chance of my attendance at Monster Mania Oaks. Sorry to disappoint.
I can't wait. I can't wait now for James Marsden to be added next week.
That would result in a meltdown.
You're tempting the combo gods right now, just to let you know. You already did. Even if you edit this and delete it before you air it, you said it. It's in the universe. There is no way you will attend. So the combo gods will give you something that even if you still stick to your word, it's going to torment you a little bit. So I hope you're happy.
Yeah, the combo gods are fickle. They are. What else do we have here? You put up the stuff about the Westchester Tattoo Horror Con.
Yeah, listen, it's probably a blessing. They added now a Charmed reunion. You have Holly Marie Combs, you have Brian Krause, and you have the kid who's not a kid anymore. I don't even remember what his name is, character or actor. So, I mean, if you wanted a well-prepared Westchester Tattoo Horror Con segment, you will not find it here. But I will tell you, I am not impressed. This show, I think I'm going to actually chop this off my list, which is actually a nice thing because my cousin does some charity thing, and I blew it off last year. Well, actually, I sent old wrestling figures as donations that I wasn't using in the business anymore. So I think I'm going to go this year in person and actually give him the crap I don't want anymore. That I can't sell. I'm going to give it to him in person because this show is not it.
I'm trying to think of the circumstances under which I would participate in like some kind of charity that my cousin was doing. And I think like maybe if I was at gunpoint, maybe. That's only maybe.
Listen, I try to support the family, and I also try to give bags of action figures that are taking up shelf space. Like right now, I'm looking at a bunch of like $3 Bryan Danielsons I bought when I thought I was going to do something with them that I can't sell for $2. So I think they might get a nice large donation of Bryan Danielson action figures to sort of warm the hearts of the kids in the children's hospital.
So in the Parsippany Wars between Chill Out and Chiller, Chill Out has done something pretty extraordinary for the show. For a show of its size, they've added Gene Simmons. I'm not going to lie, adding Gene Simmons is going to make doing everything else that day a little more difficult because they probably just doubled the number of fans in the building.
Which, I mean, perhaps as a result of doubling the amount of fans in one building, perhaps they divided by, 2 the fans in the other building. I don't know.
Halved. It's a tricky one right there.
Yeah.
Because Gene Simmons is an extraordinary ad. Probably has one of the most devoted fan bases of any celebrity on earth. He will draw. He always draws. And that's why his prices are very, very high. But he always draws.
Are you getting him?
I am not. And I know you're very surprised by that, but I have a reason that makes sense to me.
I wouldn't say I'm surprised because I recognize if you hop in my car at any point in my lifetime, basically, you're never going to really catch me playing Kiss. I'm pretty consistent. Podcasts or rap. That's it. But there are several songs in the Kiss discography that, I mean, to me are just iconic and classic. And I like those songs. If they came on a radio station, I would enjoy hearing them. So I will 100. That is my criteria to spend hundreds of dollars, which is not normal at all. But I mean, listen, that's okay. So I will be getting it, and just
I mean, a truly phenomenal, objectively speaking.
yeah,
Probably if we're like, rating like con ads of the season, it's right up there with Sigourney Weaver in terms of drawing people to an event.
I am gonna save actually, because I mean, let's be honest. I mean, pitting these two shows against each other, whether Tom or the other team want to or not, which I mean, I think you can kind of argue they absolutely do, even if some people on the show were very diplomatic in their answers. Because I mean, let's be honest. I want to save our sort of decision about which one is stronger for the hype episode in a couple of weeks. I think there's still some pieces to fall, some dominoes to fall, and let's see where we're at. But listen, we have two great shows right now.
Well, what's wild though is did you look at Chiller's social media? So Chiller had 0 ads this week, but they had 4 cancellations.
I'm saying this is not good because I actually wanted one of them.
So
they canceled Mira Sorvino, DeMond Wilson, who I wanted from Sanford and Son, Mike Appel, and Maud Adams. I'll be honest, I don't know who the other two are, the last two, without looking at their resumes. But Mira and DeMond for sure are hits. I think DeMond would draw. Maybe I might be overstating him because I want him, but that's unfortunate. And that's not a knock on Chiller. Cancellations happen everywhere. I'm confident they'll do something to like replace, but not the week when you're a cross interstate rival adds Gene Simmons. That's not really the week you want to have cancellations. You want to hit with an equal blow. But I think I'm sure they got some punches left in them.
I mean they promised replacements. So
yeah.
So we'll see.
I'm eagerly awaiting.
Steel City, in the December show, they added a bunch of names. They rebooked Hank Azaria from his previous cancellation. They booked Kate Jackson from Charlie's Angels, who's rare. They booked Garrett Hedlund, and they also booked Paige, Saraya, whatever you want to call her, for that weekend as well.
Hopefully, Paige doesn't have to bring her sick dog to the club the night before. I mean, that would be very unfortunate.
Very wild.
It's weird the way Steel City does this. Like, I assumed Garrett Hedlund was already announced because like he was on that billboard, but they take like. I would think you would announce those names like in a cluster or like right away because they're already like the cat's out of the bag. But no, they still like trickle them out. So Garrett Hedlund, I think we mentioned like a month ago, and now he's like officially added.
And then Rhode Island had a very slow week. They added like a couple of voice actors from very minor roles. They added Kari Payton from Walking Dead, who's also primarily known as a voice actor. Nothing really else this week. I mean, I think their show is. I mean, you look at the lineup; it's just there's so many guests. I think it's largely done. We'll see. I think there'll be little names they trickle in here and there, but I think they're going to be largely done. That's my prediction.
I would be okay with that because I haven't even done the math, but I mean, there's a lot, so it's probably a blessing.
I don't need that much there yet. I was hoping for some more. I'm still hoping for a true American Pie reunion, to be honest. I'm waiting for that, and no one seems to be
Sean William Scott is busy, much like Freddie Prinze. They are filming constantly for things that are never released or heard of or watched by anyone in the world. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. I would absolutely be there for an American Pie reunion. Allison Hannigan, I think, is career-wise, she's made for cons, but I think she may have actually been too successful, and I think she may just be sitting on too many syndication checks where she doesn't need to do them. I don't know.
I think you clocked her perfectly. She's perfectly happy collecting syndication checks, and I think she had a deceptively excellent career, honestly. So I think she's all right. I think she's the holdout.
Dare I say she may be a TV A-list if we're going to separate the A-list. I mean, she's television royalty. I think she's done enough big shows. She's a big one.
So anyway, we had Photo With Friday again. I can say without reservation that there are people posting who are just upping the ante to absolutely unreasonable degrees. It almost makes me feel weird posting mine when I see what other people are posting, these unbelievable photos. This week was the best one we've done yet. Is that even a question?
No, we usually do 3, which you sort of made me open my eyes to. 'Cause I was like agonizing in pre-show about how do we narrow this down to 3, and you go like, who says we have to? Like why is it 3? So it's not 3. I don't want to. I know what you're saying, but I don't want people to feel like self-conscious out there that my stuff isn't good enough. Listen, post what you want to post. It's all good. I
felt self-conscious. I did.
I mean, not everyone's like us. Some people, if they're self-conscious, they won't do it, and they'll just say forget it. And we want everyone to post. But I thought I had a good one. I'm like, ooh, The Conjuring. It's setting the box office on fire. I got good old Patrick Wilson on set. This is great. I'm gonna drop this. And I mean, I was completely like, you
got no sold.
Listen, I got a couple likes. I think one of them was my own, but it's okay. For the first one, listen, 16 times. I think wherever 16 times lives, for from now until the end of time, they just construct like a statue on his lawn, sort of Ken Griffey Jr. or any of the athletes, Michael Jordan statue outside the United Center. And 1,000 years from now, whoever lives there should have to just have the 16 times statue just in their yard, because this guy is so cool, such a legend. And he I think scraped just the mere surface of his archives and dropped a casual shot with Muhammad Ali. I mean, Muhammad Ali, if he's not on your Mount Rushmore, objectively speaking, of athletes, I think you have a very weird and just incorrect sort of view of what makes someone an iconic athlete. This guy was in societal levels was just iconic. He was the best at what he did. He was everything you could want. Absolutely insane shot with Muhammad Ali planting a nice little hook right on 16 times jaw, just a classic shot.
You see it, you just shake your head and go. Especially because there's a certain amount of sadness at knowing you'll never have any opportunity yourself to do that.
No. And speaking of something you'll never have the opportunity to do, Marcus Brandon, apparently, and I've known Marcus for 15 years, and this is something that I've been in person with this guy. He's been on the board for forever. I never knew this, but apparently he went trick-or-treating as a kid to President Richard Nixon's home, and apparently that was a thing. And Richard Nixon would give out pre-signed, which I'm kind of curious now if they're authentic or not. The pre-signed ones probably were, because I mean, why would you go through all that effort to not have them be authentic? And he would also sign whatever. If you brought something, he would sign it in front of you. And they have a photo, Marcus, and I would assume a sibling or a friend, who knows. But Marcus in Halloween costume is standing on Nixon's walk of his house with Nixon. And Nixon's dressed like he's in the Oval Office. You would think he would wear comfy, Halloween at home clothes. But this guy's suited and ready to rock and roll. And I texted you. I didn't want to respond to it because I'm like, is he trolling us? Is this fake? This can't be real before I go make an idiot of myself. And sure enough, it's real. And it's spectacular.
That's a quote.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say about that. It's the first two, the Muhammad Ali shot and the Nixon shot. I just what they're so good, and they're such both of them are such snapshots in time. That's what makes them epic. They're actually perfect for this kind of thing, because you can't be replicated. They even in their quality, they're both high quality shots too, for their own absurd reasons. Halloween costume and Ali punching you in the jaw, just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if I met Richard Nixon on Halloween, the fact that he never mentioned that blows my mind. I think I would meet people, and that would be my greeting. Hi, I'm Dana. I trick-or-treated at Richard Nixon's house when I was 8. That would be something I would work into most conversations, because that's just absurd. Not to be outdone, And I assume he was listening last week to our Spade discussion about and where Farley came up. But graphing legend Bob Pivaroff posted his photo with Chris Farley, which, I mean, again, talking an icon of comedy who is no longer with us. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, Farley is a hugely influential figure. I mean, look, Sandler still brings him up and still does things at the SNL thing. He did the song. Farley's one of those guys who died way too young, was in that sort of Belushi camp of being a hugely influential person who just died super young.
Farley would have made so much money he would have been with Sandler. He would have been
the way comedy changed,
Yeah.
Like comedy changed to more suit his kind of thing right after he died. So, you go back and
the cruelest joke of all, I guess.
Go watch Tommy Boy and Black Sheep. They're kind of ahead of their time a little bit. And they would fit very well into that 2000, 2001, 2002 kind of style. Yeah. Terrible.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Rockin' with Dan was flying first class, and he bumped into Matt Cardona because, I mean, they're all out of MCO. And, of course, Matt was on the same flight, and Matt was flying coach because Cardona, much like me, honestly, will spend obscene amounts of money on stupid things like collectibles and toys and whatnot. And then I think he'll try to scrimp on other things, which, I mean, I could relate to that. And he's flying coach while rocking his first class.
It's a funny picture.
Yeah, it's awesome. Then we have IVP Chris dropped. I think this, I'm sure you were impressed by it, but I think this popped me more than it popped you. Given that I love that era. He has a group op with two dudes with attitude, Sean and Big Kev, back in like the 96, 95, 96 era. And, the belts are on the table. Both of Sean's pupils are on the camera. Big Kev doesn't have any gray hairs. Like, this is like classic to me. This is like their prime, and it's awesome. Like the way, this is almost like a Mega Powers op for that era. Like, that is sick. Absolutely sick to see that group up. And then last but not least, we had Mr. Poppin' Twist. We had Rockin' before. Now we got Poppin'. He was with Mikey Whipwreck and Sandman at a really, really cool vendor table at Big Events Past. Want to tell everyone which one?
Yeah, I mean, if you couldn't guess by now, he paid a visit to the one and only Marked Out Collectibles table where he met Sandman and Mikey Whipwreck. That was a couple years ago at Big Event.
I gotta say, though, what the hell were we doing? We had him pointed the wrong way. We don't have any of our branding in the shot. We have all these nice banners.
Because if you recall, we had all the mail-in for the Sandman around our stuff behind the table. It was hard to get behind there. We've kind of changed our setup now to prevent that from happening in the future.
Because at first, when I saw the photo, I'm like, wait a minute, did Pop and Twist mooch a shot in the alley somewhere within the building? And then I remembered, of course not. But I'm like, wait, I didn't see a single marked out logo. But absolutely, as always, Pop and Twist, thank you for the support and thank you for sharing. Everybody, that this is a week that I don't know. I'm not promising we're going to do 6 every week. In fact, I don't know if we may never need 6 again. But this is a week for the ages right here.
Yeah, I was going nuts, honestly, the whole time. So, it's phenomenal. We actually also had a listener question come in last week that you fielded.
Yes, it was from a listener by the name of Chuck, and he wants to know: have either of you felt less enthusiastic about the hobby these days? I feel like the prices are getting way out of hand. At this point, I'd rather stick to a Barnes & Noble combo than pay more than $100 for an autograph. Thanks in advance for your thoughts. We are going to be vastly, vastly different here. I already know it. I guess I'll lead off. I'm mentally not well, and I am probably the opposite. I think my enthusiasm grows on a daily basis, which is really not good. I spend a lot. Everything. I just full transparency. These celebrity cons that I do, I mean, we're not doing business with these A-listers and B-listers, and more on that in a bit as far as the A-listers. But I mean, what you see me get at the celebrity cons, I'm paying retail. So I mean, I'm right there in the trenches with you guys suffering. The wrestling stuff, like, I don't pay retail. So I mean, when you see me drop 30 pieces from so-and-so, and I'll be dropping a Marty Jannetty report on the group in a little bit, probably before this episode goes live, it'll be up. Like, I didn't pay retail for that. So I mean, I'm admittedly with wrestling, I'm sort of like, I'm detached from reality. I don't really pay for things like the public does. So I can't speak to that. I probably wouldn't be collecting wrestling the way I do now if I had to pay that much, because I wouldn't have money for the celebrity stuff. It would be too much. But I can completely understand. Like, for example, Charlie Sheen coming up soon. That's like a $40 combo. And it feels a lot better to do a $40 combo than a $500 combo. But I am psychotic, and I am more enthusiastic every single day, but I rationally understand and I hear you, and you're correct. Sean, what are your thoughts on the state of the hobby and your current enthusiasm?
I mean, the prices are totally out of control. Totally out of control. One of the things that we talked about, and you were criticizing me over it, was when, it's so funny because when we did our end of year predictions, right? And
yes.
I went into our end of year predictions thinking that your predictions were way better than mine. And like none of yours have come true, but mine has, which is just bizarre. My one prediction that came, I said Sigourney Weaver was going to come out this year for a con, and she's been announced for NYCC. And when I looked at the prices, it was like $290 for a photo with all the fees. And then the autographs were in the $250, $260 range for that. And it's a standard auto, which means I suspect they're going to try and upcharge for other stuff at the table. And I'm like,
they have to.
And I'm looking at this going, so if I want to get anything halfway decent, you're looking at $600 to $700 for a combo. What am I doing with my life? It's just stupid. It's stupid money.
I'll tell you what you're doing with your life. You're buying combos.
It's stupid. It's a stupid amount of money, and there's no reasonable justification for it. I am not like an obsessive Sigourney Weaver fan where I must complete this Ghostbusters thing, or I must complete this Aliens thing, or whatever. The funny thing was, while we were chatting before, I was browsing through the New York Comic Con Facebook group, and I noticed there was a guy who posted that he bought multiple Sigourney Weaver autographs so he can get his VHS tapes signed. And I was like, I couldn't even like breathe when I saw that with how sick my stomach felt, because I don't feel good about spending the money that a lot of these people ask. And so I'm not buying a Sigourney Weaver combo. I'm not, years ago it would have been a no-brainer to get a lot of these people, as combos, because I wanted them. I wanted, movie posters with all these names on them. I wanted them. And I cannot justify paying that money. So for some of these guests, I'm photo only. I'm not doing autos on it. I think at NYCC right now I have 0 autographs planned. I might do, if I'm fortunate enough to get some R.L. Stine autograph tickets, I'll get some more. I have a couple more Goosebumps cover posters that I would get signed by him if I'm so fortunate to do that, because I already have them. Beyond that, I don't really foresee myself buying anything. It's because straight up, it's just too expensive. And I am a little bit, I'm losing the enthusiasm for these things because they're just too expensive.
I hear you. I do. I don't know if I'm going to do any, I'm saving most of this for the hype episode. I don't know if I'm doing any NYCC autographs. And I mean, part of that is time. I hate when you have so many pro ops and you got to keep running back and forth. And do I have time to get through the line and hold my spot? And that to me, I don't feel I can be 3 minutes away from work and I have a minute to get there and I'll be cool as a cucumber. A lot of things in my life that I probably should feel anxiety about, I don't. That is one thing that I feel a little bit anxious about when it's like that whole which line is right. Like I don't like that. So I don't know. And obviously also a big part of that is money. If things were not so extremely expensive, I would probably get more. But here's the deal. If autographs were less money, lines would be longer. So while you'd be spending less, you'd probably everything would look like an American Dream Mall little girl's makeup event.
I mean, you say that, but Weaver sold out. Her autographs sold out. So where can they go with this? You know, when you have some knucklehead bought several Weaver autograph tickets to get his VHS tape signed. And look, God bless you. Do what you want. That's your collection. I'm just, whatever. I'm being a jerk right now, but some dude buys several at that almost $300 a piece. Where you going from that? You do 4, 5, 6. Where does it end? And then
I commented on Big Chad. Big Chad was when Sigourney was the worst kept secret that morning after they posted her on the sales site and then pulled her down. I said to Chad, and I forget what I predicted, but I predicted I was like 400 to 500 each. And Chad was closer to the right price. And I messaged him back. I'm like, bro, you were right. And he was right. I was wrong. But I think ultimately I was probably more in line with where it should have been. Like, for example, and this is not what happened so far, unfortunately, but had we put Jackson Drake tickets on for sale at big event, and we would have within 4 days sold out of any amount you could conceivably do in the amount of time we have him. I think if we had him another time, which we probably won't, we would obviously raise the price. If you're selling out that quick, that shows you that the ceiling has sort of extended. And not to sound greedy, but that's the point. You do this to make money. So yes, Sigourney was priced a little too low. She is going to go up next time. Hopefully not to a level that makes her not sell. We'll see how high they would go next time. And also, this is not just a Sigourney situation. You're going to see comparable names go up as well. Because, hell, Sigourney sold out at this price. Now Sigourney's this much. I should be this much. And that's what happens. It goes and goes and goes and goes. And that's why some concert meet and greets are very expensive. And that's what it is. And it's a sad reality because you used to be able to go to an NYCC as like an average person and meet people. And I mean, 10 years from now, is it going to be something for like the elite and the affluent and the insane?
Yeah, man. But the thing is that you look at NYCC, their clientele is largely not elite and affluent. It's people with disabilities, and you're looking at them and you're going, wait, you're spending all your Social Security checks on this? Like, I hate to be like that. I never envisioned myself being that guy, like looking at people and seeing how they're spending their money and being like judgmental of it. But it's at the place where unless you are rich and have money to just piss away on nonsense, you shouldn't be buying these things. A normal person should not be spending $700 on a Sigourney Weaver combo because you can't afford it. You can't. So you're either putting yourself into debt or you're blowing the money that the government is giving you to on this instead of on necessities or what. I don't know what, but there's some kind of like there's definitely a degree of FOMO that's driving people's behavior. There's definitely degrees of like addiction that are driving people's behavior. I don't think this is like normal, easy to understand supply demand economics because you know this because look at the secondary market for these things. Sigourney she's not drawing $300 a piece for secondary items. That's not what the price is. So I understand they got to give her a lot of money to get her to come out of the house. I understand that. But I fear that there's still the economics of the hobby are being thrown in all kinds of weird ways where the bottom is going to drop out and suddenly the people who have been sustaining this through debt and through poor life choices simply won't be able to anymore. That's my prediction. Maybe I'm doom and gloom, but I really feel very strongly about this.
Well, listen, here's the reality. As a podcaster, and holy crap, I actually am a podcaster. That still sounds weird to me to say. But as a podcaster, I agree with you. As a human being, I agree with you. But, I mean, me personally, I was running a guy down this week for money that he claimed some stuff. He wasn't paying for it. And I finally got my money. I had to, you have to lean on him sometimes a little bit. And I got my money, but realistically, you can kind of figure out probably why it took several days to get the money. And the guy probably shouldn't, he didn't spend $600 with me, but whatever he spent with me, he probably realistically shouldn't have spent. I'm sure there's credit card bills and other things that are definitely more pressing. looking right in the mirror. I'm sure there's other things in my life that are more pressing. I could do home improvements. I could do different things in my house, in my life. I could invest. I could save more. I could all sorts of things that would be better spent than on a Hulk Hogan seat back. It's all crazy. I don't want to sound, I'm not saying you did because you didn't, but I'm saying I don't want to sound like holier than thou when I am making the same bad choices, when I am reaping the same benefits from others' bad choices by selling them the stuff that they can't afford. I would venture to say a large percentage of the people that buy from us probably shouldn't be parting with their money on autographs. They're not in a financial. Yeah.
I can't remember if I told this story on the show. This is what happens when you talk about this stuff so much. Did I tell the story about the retired cop in Sheepshead Bay who bought all of my belts on the show?
I think you did, and how he was like maxing out credit cards. Just like,
I sat there and I feel sick about it now thinking about it, but he was maxing out his credit cards right there, buying my stuff. And it's like, oh man, what are we doing here? And so I know a good portion of the people in line for Sigourney Weaver are doing that. I know they are, because you see, we talk to a lot of people in this hobby through social media. A lot of people come up and talk to us at shows. These are not wealthy people, and there are very few wealthy people in the hobby, and a lot of us can probably identify who they are. And that, God bless if they want to spend their money on that. Well, sure, why the hell not? But the people who are really struggling, who are spending their money on this stuff, it's disturbing. And I'm not someone who's struggling, and still I look at the dollar amounts and I'm like, what? I'm embarrassed to say this in front of people, because I know it's just not good.
And one caveat I want to just sort of throw in as far as just sort of how. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some sort of a communist that, like, I am all for free market capitalism. Spend what you want to spend, as a business, get what you can get. I understand all of it, but let's also acknowledge the fact that every single person that bought their Sigourney Weaver, unless their credit and their history is already ravaged by making these poor choices, are sort of flashed and enticed by, all these predatory, helpful but predatory at their core, like lending services with the Affirms and all these different things. Now, I absolutely love me a little PayPal paying for, because listen, there's no interest. It doesn't really hit you in any way, shape, or form. It's sometimes you buy a Hulk Hogan seat back. It's nice to spread that over several charges over one. It just looks better on the old statement. But I mean, some of those, the Affirms, people, what are you actually paying for those Sigourney Weaver autographs when you get hit with the interest you're agreeing to? It's probably it's not really any worse than credit card interest that you're draped over the barrel on. But I mean, the price isn't always the price when you start getting into the weeds of what people are paying for it with the interest.
We're getting a little bit inside here, but I'm not going to lie. I have really, as a business person, I notice when people are paying with Affirm.
I do too.
As a human being, I almost want to disable Affirm on our website.
Hold on.
I'm not saying we're doing it. Because I understand that that's a way to generate revenue for us. But I look at that and it makes me feel bad when I see it. I don't feel good about it. And so, just it's part of the kind of crazy society that we live in right now, where we're not even batting an eye, at least in our hobby, that someone like Sigourney Weaver or Lawrence Fishburne is charging these incredibly high prices. And it's not even like, it used to be when high level talent wanted to generate money, you have to you pay $5,000 to get a table at a dinner with them for a charity. And so that was for rich people only, right? That was designed so that you really couldn't, put it on a credit card or put it on a firm or whatever and do that. And now one of the kind of more insidious aspects of this is that it is designed to increase the participation by people who don't have any money.
Yep.
And so that's what I know that people are going to listen to this past 15 minutes and sort of some people will just roll their eyes at it. But if when you unless you've seen, I don't know, man, if you can see people, mortgaging their last nickel to buy stupid stuff from you and not feel bad, I can't relate to you. I don't know any other way to say it. I can't. I feel bad when I see people who are giving themselves major problems by doing this. And so our listener Chuck, when he's saying it makes sense to him to do a Barnes and Noble combo, brother, I hear you because in a lot of ways, look, that's our way of getting Charlie Sheen, right?
Yeah. But listen, let me just make my closing thought on this. And it kind of makes me wonder as like we as vendors, and this is not because we're such great human beings. It's to be completely frank, we probably don't have in some level, stupidity to book these really, really expensive people. Because as we've talked about before, I don't see how they're really profitable. And also, it's just at the stage of our business right now, it's easier and more interesting to work with the talent we work with. So we don't charge $500 for Jackson Drake. We know we would sell nothing. So our prices are fair because we sort of have to have them fair. That's like necessity. So we don't have that same feeling of watching people sort of mortgage, hand over paychecks to us to get what we're bringing to a show. But at the same time, I want to just sort of throw out there the fact that, I hear you, I agree with you as a human being. I think I share some of those feelings, but ultimately I am aware that we are completely hypocritical because, let's look no further than our stack of Olivia Hussey, Leonard Whiting, Romeo and Juliet pieces. We can hope and pray and assume that our prices are high and they will be purchased by collectors with high salaries and high savings accounts. Sort of a high-end piece for a high-end buyer. But we know that's not always going to be the case. We also know that that's keeping people out. If we were truly going to be nice and equitable and fair, we would say, let's slice the prices. They'll all be $50. So they're affordable for everybody. And I mean, are we going to do that? Absolutely not. Because whether it's the person's first nickel or last nickel, I want the nickel. So, I mean, I'm not slashing the prices. And we are simply a spoke in the wheel of just sort of bankrupting people. No better than anyone else.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is that these are luxury goods. They're luxury goods, and people sort of view them as something else. And have a hard time separating what a luxury good is as from a necessity. And there are some people who absolutely can't tell the difference, and I think that's the state of the hobby right now, because we're going to go to New York Comic Con. Everything. I mean, I think of New York Comic Con 10 years ago. Everything has doubled. The price to get in is doubled. The food prices have doubled. Everything's doubled except the people's incomes walking in the door.
That's what I was going to say. But wait, the salaries doubled too, right? Nope, that's not how it works.
And so it's a very frustrating thing to walk around and see. All of this, and part of it is because it's so corporatized and it's so, Lord, I'm very curious to even know what Sigourney Weaver's appearance fee would be for something like this. Because even her, as someone who's a working person, at some point they keep throwing money at you. At some point you're gonna say, all right, fine, I guess I'll do it. It's like Matt Damon doing a Bitcoin commercial almost, it's all right, fine, I'll just do it because it's you're getting the money. She's getting the money to perform this service. I don't blame her. I'm not sure who's to blame. I think on an individual level, people just need to stop paying. They need to stop paying. I mean, I didn't pay for an autograph. I just didn't do it. Does that mean anything in the grand scheme of things? No, the autograph sold out anyway, right?
But
I can only do what I can do.
I think what it comes down to, though, and it's not normal, but I mean, the fact that it sold out so quick, I mean, that could be like us saying, well, we should all stop buying iPhones because they're too much money. We should stop paying. But the market
There are people who do.
Yeah, but the market seems okay with it. So it's I don't want to say they should stop paying because I mean they couldn't pay any quicker. They were racing to pay. So I don't know. I really don't know. I guess ultimately it's sad, but I mean you can't tell people what to do with their money. No one's to blame. It's supply and demand sort of go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other as far as making this whole thing work. That's the way it goes. And yeah, Chuck, absolutely awesome question. I feel like we probably went deeper and further down a rabbit hole than you were expecting. I hope we answered your basic question there. It was really good. I'm going to keep dropping these mailbag posts. The engagement on them is different each week. I like this. I know a lot of shows have this type of a segment where it's like Q&A mailbag. And whether you want to ask me about my change in shirt sizes, whether you want to go deep and existential like Chuck did about just the state of the game and how we feel about it, I like these. I like as much listener engagement as possible. So there's if you have a question, and you can also email them to us if you want to ask us something that you're a little embarrassed to put your name on or, whatever. We have many ways to get these questions to us, and I absolutely enjoyed tackling this one. So thank you, Chuck.
So if you're shopping for autographs, no. I forgot my last bullet point real quick, because this story, every time I see the hobby in the mainstream media, I like to make a note of it on here. So I guess Jamie Lee Curtis was on Colbert the other day, and she was asked the question. I guess Colbert somehow knew to ask this question, but he asked the question if she had ever asked anyone for an autograph. Now, this is funny because, as we've discussed, that Jamie Lee Curtis in public is a little bit of a difficult person to get autographs from. She yells at people, and we had those funny stories to tell about the guy with the taking the non-consensual selfie with Jamie Lee Curtis. So Jamie Lee Curtis told a funny story where she actually did ask someone for an autograph once. She's been in Hollywood her whole life, so that's probably true. That she actually asked Jaleel White, who she referred to as Urkel, for an autograph for her daughter, and Jaleel White obliged. And then Jaleel White himself responded to this on social media. He remembered the story because he was on ABC for Family Matters, and she was on ABC for, I forget the name of the show, a different show that she was on. It's like a sitcom thing. And he said that when giving her the autograph, he got really excited because the lady with the big boobies from Trading Places had asked him for an autograph. So pretty funny story. And again, sort of seeing the hobby pop up in mainstream is always fun.
Oh yeah. It's nice to see that it's not just us and the Facebook groups of the world out there discussing this stuff. It's a little bit for everybody once in a while.
Now I can do the pitch. So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out autograph collecting community on Facebook. All links are in the show notes on Facebook and Substack. And if you want your event, product, or brand advertised on episodes of Marked Out Radio, reach out to us today at markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com. If you enjoy what you're listening to, or you absolutely hate what you're listening to, or anything in between, but you want to keep listening, please subscribe. You can listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Substack. You can leave us a rating and or a review on Apple Podcast. You can leave a rating on Spotify, and you can leave every week thumbs up, thumbs down, or comments on YouTube. I actually got into a whole conversation with someone on YouTube this week about asking why we haven't been covering more stories about people who are forgers in the business, and those are planned for the future. But we have a million, as you can hear every week, a million topics to talk about, and we have we don't want to simply talk about one thing over and over. So we're running extremely long right now. So I'm going to ask you live here. Do you want to do this topic, or do you want to save this topic for next week?
I think we should probably save this topic because I don't think the listeners need to hear 2 hours of us going on. So I think we can stop there.
Honestly, in reality, the listener question kind of became the main topic of the show, especially as it connected to everything else.
Listen, I like the way things like that work sometimes in a really just organic way that that just sort of became the topic of the show. That is great. And I think it's interesting. I have not plugged in at all to our YouTube account, so I did not see this. Absolutely. Listen, we can't talk about forgeries all the time, but I guarantee that there will be more good times to come.
If you know, you know. So I see you added stuff to the what's coming up for us thing. There's some kind of Mets signing that you're doing.
Yeah, next Sunday, I will be meeting Edgardo Alfonso and Ray Ordonez from that iconic infield. That 98, 99, 2000 infield is absolutely, not really 2000. By 2000, Olerud was gone, and I wouldn't call it iconic with like Todd Zeal. But that is an awesome infield. And I've met Fonzie before, but Ordonez honestly has not done a hell of a lot. So I'm still on the fence if I do a 11x14 of the Sports Illustrated cover featuring that infield, or if I just sort of christen my Shea Stadium seat back. Because, I mean, I have so many fond memories of being at Shea Stadium watching this dynamic middle infield. So I'm probably leaning in that direction. It'll save me a trip to Walgreens since I didn't get this in our last print order. So I'll probably just do the seat back. Then the following day, you have Ronnie Mauricio, one of their top prospects, and also one of the many logs in their log jam of an infield right now. And am I sure Ronnie Mauricio is going to really stick around and be a starter for the Mets long term? I'm not, but, we're all, I'm a sick man, and I've decided I'd rather spend the $100 on him now and have him end up being a backup infielder for the Pirates in 5 years than not spend the $100 and then have to watch the Mets and just agonize that I didn't get their future, whatever. So I will be both places back-to-back days, and I think I also have on September 11th, which I forgot to put in there, I think Bobby Valentine is coming down to a local watering hole, like a few miles away from me, for one of those watch parties. So I will be surrounded by Coach's collectibles for most of the week.
And then somewhere in there, we got Charlie Sheen at Bookends. We got Comic-Con in there. Right after Comic-Con, we have that Reese Witherspoon event that I'm really looking forward to it. I'm a huge Reese Witherspoon fan. I know that you were kind of like FOMOing on that. I get it. But I'm looking forward to it. And then of course later on in October, Chill Out and Chiller. So October is an absolutely insane month.
I gotta add. That's November. Never mind. Get going. I gotta add Oaks to our list, but that's November.
Yeah, I'm actually, because the months are so crazy. I'm literally
Let's focus on October. I'm
stopping at October because there's just too much in October. Fortunately for September, I don't really have anything. You do. Oh no, that's not true. Charlie Sheen. So beyond that, I don't really have anything for September.
I do love, though, how you're so excited about Reese, and we're absolutely going to hear this excitement wane and dissipate weekly. We will see.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I mean, truthfully, though, for me, she's so upper echelon. I really that's part of the thing is that when I'm Pokemon hunting for these people, the returns are so diminishing for me. But what you saw, for example, when we were in Pittsburgh, how absolutely excited I was for Heather Matarazzo. It's the people who I really like, they still get a high energy out of me. It's the secondary stuff, the people who I get out of compulsion, or who I get because I think I should, or whatever. Those are the ones that take the life out of me. Because frankly, years ago, when I would do those people for $20, it was like, oh, who cares? It's $20. But now that it's a lot more, and you're like, ugh, and it just makes you feel bad, or at least me. So that's where it's coming from on that. So in terms of our products that we have going out there for everybody, we have our Mike Tyson stuff that's due in November for big event. We have our Swerve and our Bill Goldberg metallic print pre-orders. The prints are now out there. They look unbelievable. Your creative work with the Swerve stuff is exceptional. If you are a Swerve Strickland fan and you don't take advantage of these designs just vanish into the ether. These are incredible, one-of-a-kind, unique designs for Swerve Strickland prints. I can't recommend enough if you're a Swerve fan. And we all know Swerve is continuing to be destined for big things. He has not reached his peak in the hobby, in the business. I don't think I'm saying anything that's too controversial.
No, Swerve is going to eventually land back in WWE, and he's going to have a very, very, very bright future.
We also, of course, will have at big event ourselves. Jackson Drake, Brad Baylor, Ricky Smokes, Emily J. We're also doing mail-ins for those 4. Those orders, the prints are going to go up soon, and the orders, if you want to do send-ins, are due in November. No rush on them yet. We'll probably, honestly, there's so much stuff happening now that we'll have that stuff up sometime in early October if you want to do order prints for them.
Yeah, I've started creating them, but like that's the thing. Like at this point, I have to like organically wait for like moments and pictures to come out. To I'm trying not to give. When we make new rounds with these guys, I try to have it be the most like current stuff possible. I'm not trying to get like a Brad, junior year football photo from high school. Like I'm trying to get Brad from August to October since we had him before that. So I'm working on them. They will be up in hopefully by October.
And so, we're definitely looking forward to November at Big Event with those guys. And honestly, I think Big Event, the tone of that show is going to shift a little bit now that AJ Lee is an active WWE roster member again, that the draw for that show is going to increase. And
not just an active WWE roster member. I mean, she's catapulted right up. Yeah, I'm saying she's right up there with Rhea. Like I think Rhea is going to still be the top dog, but she's on a 3-year deal. Like this is not a little one-off. This is not Trish coming back. I feel like I keep dumping on Trish the last couple of weeks. I actually think Trish had a very good career. I want to make that clear. But I mean, she comes back now to have a little feud with whoever. Like this is not that. They're putting real money into her. The merchandise machine is behind her. It's actually absurd that Tom has her. Like that's not something that happens often, and it's wild. And I think absolutely, I can only imagine Tom must have sold a bunch of tickets this week. If you want AJ, she's going to sell out. And
no question.
While you're getting AJ, listen, come meet the future.
Can't say it better myself. So yeah, this is that's pretty much it. Oh, we didn't talk about the merch. We'll just we'll say briefly, Marked Out Radio merch is coming. At least one design has been finalized, and they're currently in the process of the final stages of how those are going to be produced and sold. Yeah. What else to say about that? Really, what do you think? What do you think of my design? First of all, without saying what it is,
it's awesome. And I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance, but I have like 2 to 3 designs in my head that I just have to put on canvas. Basically, we might launch honestly before the next episode, maybe, I don't know. But listen, may we have a rush of sales for shirts like the Hogan's Beach Shop had after the Hulkster's demise.
Just cause an issue with imports that they can't handle. Too many shirts all at once.
Yes, let's break the system, guys.
All right. So on that note, for markedout.com, Marked Out Collectibles, Marked Out Radio, I'm Sean.
I'm Dana.
And we'll see you next week with Marked Out Radio gear.